Welcome to Shape Your Life, the show that keeps you informed with matters of your health. I'm Ronald Avergy, and in this episode, we'll be taking a look at the dangers of smoking and the effects of using electronic cigarettes. Here's a look at what we have in store for you. In our show today, can flu vaccine prevent hospitalization? We dispel myths about smoking and the backlash of using e-cigarettes. It's another informative show, so without wasting any time, here's a look at your health news.
In health news, new Canadian research has revealed that children who vaccinate against flu have a less likely chance of ending up in hospital than those who don't. The researchers looked at records of 9,982 children from the Ontario Hospital aged between 6 months and 5 years old. They found that fully vaccinated children aged 2 to 4 years old saw their risk of hospitalization due to influenza drop by 67%, while those aged 6 to 23 months saw their risk drop by 48%. Children who were partially vaccinated also saw their risk of being hospitalized drop by 39%. The results showed flu vaccines are effective in preventing children from being hospitalized and support evidence that serious cases of flu can be prevented by those who receive their seasonal vaccines. In the UK, researchers claim that 3 cups of coffee a day may have some health benefits compared with non-coffee drinkers. Researchers from the University of Southampton have found that coffee drinkers have a reduced risk against heart and liver disease. Even though they found the disease risks lower in coffee drinkers, it could not be proved if coffee was the actual difference maker. Experts also advised against people starting to drink coffee for health reasons.
Now, smoking causes about 90% of lung cancer cases globally and has the ability to affect all the other organs of the body. We sat down with Dr. Marlon McKay to unpack the dangers of smoking. Dr. McKay, as always, thank you for joining us on Shape Your Life.
Thank you. Nice to be here again.
What makes smoking so addictive?
Nicotine. One cigarette, almost 600 ingredients.
Wow.
Light it up, start smoking, you're releasing almost 7,000 chemicals. 69 of those are cancer causing. Okay? But the main ingredient that causes the addiction is nicotine.
Doctor, what are the repercussions of smoking cigarettes?
We can take days. It can literally affect every single organ of your body, starting from the head right down. I mentioned the brain. It increases your risk of strokes. Coming to the mouth, increased risk of gum disease, bad breath, mouth and oral cancers. All right? Coming down to the lungs, we know emphysema, chronic obstructive airways disease, lung cancer. Just about every single person who gets lung cancer is a smoker. Going lower down to the pancreas, diabetes. Going further down, it can affect your liver. Going down even lower to your reproductive organs, erectile dysfunction, secondary or primary infertility, bladder cancer. Okay? And then lower down, bones can affect premature development of osteoporosis. And then into your arteries in the legs can cause obstruction there, clots, and can cause one of the main causes of amputation. So cigarette smoking is probably the biggest cause of preventable deaths that we have.
But that's looking at primary smoking. What about the secondary and the tertiary smoke? How does that impact on those around you, like your kids and your family members and friends?
Absolutely. So it has such devastating social effects as well. Secondary smoking is, again, one of the leading causes, and we're seeing it a lot. We're seeing older widows coming in and with lung disease, and have they smoked? No. Where's your husband? He's passed away, emphysema or lung cancer, heavy smoker, and we've seen the secondary effects of that, what we call passive smoking. Look at the dangers of the risk of kids developing allergies and asthma. It comes from premature exposure to irritants such as cigarette smoke at an early age.
Now, when it comes to talk kids and smoking, yes, they might be around the secondary smoke, but then this new trend of the hubbly bubblies and these hookah pipes is becoming so popular amongst the youth that they spend hours upon hours literally smoking this hookah pipe. And what do they tell you? No, the smoke is being filtered through the water because it's bubbling up. What do you have to say to this?
Rubbish, absolute rubbish. We know that 1 hour of smoking the hubbly bubbly or the hookah pipe is equivalent to smoking 100 cigarettes. Wow. So you think about it. Even a heavy smoker seldom smokes 100 cigarettes per day, never mind in an hour, okay? So yes, it may, this perception that it's safer, we don't have data as long as we have cigarettes, because it hasn't been around that long enough, but we know enough today to say that it is harmful, and there's no excuse to justify it just because it is filtered through the water and the flavorants and stuff. It is still addictive substances, there are other harmful chemicals. In terms of oral hygiene, it's a bad thing, and we are still seeing the dangers of smoking as much as cigarettes that we are seeing.
For those that want to quit smoking, doctor, what are the remedy options that they have?
Okay, so we talk about pre-contemplation, contemplation, and going in. I think the first point to come to is a decision, a fixed, hard decision to say, I am going to, and then setting a quit day. All right. Now, fortunately, we have a number of tools that are available to help one to stop smoking. And I think this is where you can chat to your pharmacist or to your doctor. There are medications, great medication today that work on the center of addiction. We started off by saying nicotine is an addictive, and so we need to work on the brain. Stop there. And so these chemicals, marvelous drugs that switch off. And so in the first 7 to 8 days, you're actually allowed to keep on smoking, but you set yourself a quit day. So it's usually day 8 or day 10, and by that time the drugs have reached sufficient quantities in your blood to stop you having the craving.
Doctor, what would your advice be to smokers out there and to people that are contemplating getting into it? Why? Because it's social, my friends do it, I feel out. What would your advice be to both those populations to say enough is enough, stop?
So there's a lot of media pressure and peer pressure to get into smoking. And I think the first advice is there's no such thing as a good cigarette versus a bad cigarette. So yes, you can get into trouble if you don't know where the cigarette's coming from. They're probably cheaper, but the quality, the whole industry is not regulated. I think only now, recently, some of the companies are starting to actually list the actual ingredients within cigarettes. So cigarettes are bad. There's no such thing as a better or good cigarette, and especially this light versus heavy and all these concentrations. The main message is, please do not start smoking. If you can never ever touch a cigarette, and don't give in to that pressure. If you are smoking now, be it a few cigarettes a day, be it heavy smoking, today is the day that you can stop. Within a year of smoke cessation, you can reverse the effects of the dangers of heart attacks. Within 2 years, you can reverse the danger of strokes. Within a few months, you can get rid of the addiction. Okay? Remember, every cigarette that you take, you're shortening your life by 4 minutes. Every single cigarette. Death by cigarette smoking is more than HIV, guns and violence, motor vehicle accidents, all combined. So the best decision anyone can make, as I said, don't start, and if you are, just quit today.
With those 2 pearls of wisdom, I say thank you so much for sharing your insight and your passion for this topic, because at the end of the day, is you in your practice deal with the repercussions of these unhealthy choices. So I hope people make more informed choices and heed the advice and rather be preventative than reactionary when it comes to their health.
Absolutely. Thanks, Ron.
When it comes to smoking, there are a few myths that people have held on to try and justify this habit, especially concerning their diet. We spoke to dietitian Tony Bryan to help us dispel some of those folktales. Tony, thank you so much for joining us in studio.
It's a pleasure, Ron.
When it comes to smoking, there are a lot of misconceptions that are out there, and people use those to justify why they smoke. And one of them is that it helps them keep their weight at bay. What do you think of this, and is it true?
Yes, unfortunately, keep your weight at bay. Just because there is a link between the smoking and nicotine and suppressing your appetite. But this does not mean to say that if you smoke, you are going to be skinny. It's really to do with a lot of other habitual things. It's not just about the smoking, and it's not just about the food.
Now, I know a lot of people, like you've mentioned, that they smoke to suppress their appetite. And by suppressing the appetite, they just don't eat, so naturally your body will waste muscle away.
When you smoke as well, you damage your taste buds. So a lot of smokers will lean towards having higher salt, higher fat, higher sugar foods when they do eat. So their nutrition that they're getting in is not optimal. Over time, even though your appetite is suppressed, you are eating more calories. So it's not a good weight loss option.
Now, with people that get affected, like smokers, when they can't taste the food properly, they then begin to go to alternative substances like coffee and alcohol, and they end up overindulging on that. What's that doing to your body?
So it's not really doing anything good to your body. So both smoking and a high caffeine intake and alcohol all increase your risk for cardiovascular disease, high blood pressure, as well as increasing risk for cancers such as your lung cancer. It also prevents your liver from detoxing properly. So it's just all around not a good idea.
In your practice, do you often have smokers coming to you, but still wanting to eat healthy, but smoke at the same time? How do they balance that from a congruency perspective? Because one is a really unhealthy habit, and they're trying to incorporate healthy eating habits. How do you help them balance that out?
So to help them balance it out, obviously, I always try and get them to cut back a little bit. And learn healthy eating habits. So when they are eating, choose healthier foods, flavor the foods with herbs and spices rather than using salt and oils and things to flavor their foods. And if you see a person consistently over time, you can generally convince them to cut back on the smoking and maybe eventually quit if they can see the health benefits of eating well and they start feeling better. Sometimes they do want to quit.
Is there natural sources of foods whereby we can also get certain amounts of nicotine from?
Not really. So nicotine is not a beneficial substance. So tobacco is really the only source of nicotine. But what they're showing is also when you quit smoking to prevent weight gain, well, when you quit smoking, you won't necessarily always gain weight. It's just the addictive behavior and the addictive feeling that you get from nicotine is very close to the brain response that you get from food addiction as well. So when you quit smoking, you often want to replace that addiction with something else that feels good. So when you quit smoking and you don't want to gain weight, it's a very good idea to possibly see a dietitian for a consultation to ease you into a healthy eating plan so that you don't ultimately overeat and replace the smoking with food.
How would you as an expert dietitian advise them on how food can assist in that transition from smoking to stopping to smoke?
So I would advise them to not use food as a crutch or as a substitute for the smoking, and to learn different ways to break the habit. Maybe exercise is a good option, and understand what food is doing for your body and what that smoking addiction is actually doing to you. You know, the feel-good sensation of smoking can be replaced by other things, not just food. So quit the smoking, try and eat healthier, and then work with a dietitian to get a healthy eating plan to get you to reach your goal long term.
When it comes to smoking, is it true that smoking also assists with bowel movements?
It can. It really can, but obviously it varies from person to person. So nicotine is a stimulant, so it can stimulate your guts in the same way that caffeine and alcohol can. But there are many healthier ways to assist with bowel movements other than smoking. So like increasing your fluid intake, for example. Fiber intake is also very important. But yeah, smoking can definitely assist with bowel movements, but it's not the healthiest way to deal with bowel issues at all.
Thank you for your time and for joining us on Shape Your Life and giving us this insight on the relation on food and smoking, and when you do stop, what to do. I think it's valuable, it's simple to follow, and each and every one of our viewers can incorporate those habits into their lives, whether they're smokers or not, because health is the overall goal we're aiming to achieve.
I agree. Thank you so much for having me, Ron.
It's time for us to take a short break. We have more when we return. After the break, we find out about the effects of e-cigarettes. Stay tuned.